Welcome. Good morning, everybody. Thank you all for joining us via Zoom for Tampa Bay emerges as one of the hottest markets in the U.S. Today's presentation will finish at approximately 10:45 a.m. My name's Justina Saul. I'm going to be the moderator this morning and your MC. I'm the Vice President of Marketing and Communications for BTI Partners. So Tampa, once considered a secondary market, has now become one of Florida's most desirable cities to live due to reasonably priced housing, no state income tax, great quality of life, less traffic, open bay views, more space, and year-round sunshine. Most recently, all eyes turned to Tampa as the city hosted the Super Bowl, and many were surprised to see how fast the city has evolved in the last 5 years. So today we're gathered in person at Marina Pointe in the Westshore Marina District with Tampa's business leaders to discuss how the Tampa area has quickly become the new hotspot for buyers, as the Tampa-St. Pete region is ranked 4th in terms of the biggest net inflow of new residents. A quick special thank you to our partners and sponsors, Global Tampa, Greater Tampa Realtors, FIOPSI, City of Tampa, Tampa International Airport, Hispanic Chamber of Commerce of Tampa Bay, Florida Realtors, and our host, Marina Pointe, Luxury Waterfront Condos by BTI Partners. So without further ado, please allow me to introduce our esteemed panel. Sitting front and center, we have Mayor Jane Castor, who is the 59th mayor of the city of Tampa, born and raised in Tampa. Jane has spent a lifetime in service to the community, first as a police officer and then as Tampa's first female chief of police, and finally as the city's 59th mayor. Since taking office, Mayor Castor has continued to achieve major accomplishments under the Transforming Tampa's Tomorrow vision while gaining praise for her exemplary leadership in the face of the COVID pandemic. I have many more things I could say about the mayor, but I'm going to let her tell you. We have just over to the left of the mayor is Craig Richard, who is the CEO of Tampa Bay Economic Development Council. Craig Richard is a certified economic developer with over 2 decades of economic development leadership experience in major markets such as Dallas, Houston, and Atlanta. His career highlights include 308 successful projects representing 126,246 jobs and 9.3 billion in capital investment. He has served as the chairman of the board of directors for the International Economic Development Council and currently serves on the boards of Tampa Bay Chamber of Commerce, Film Tampa Bay, Visit Tampa Bay, and the Downtown Tampa Bay Partnership. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Over to the left of Craig, we have Chris Minner, who is the Executive Vice President of Tampa International Airport. As Executive Vice President, Chris is responsible for the air service development, advertising, marketing, research, real estate, communications, and government relations activities of the Hillsborough County Aviation Authority. He and his team have developed and implemented the strategy to recruit and sustain new flights to Zurich, Panama, London, Cuba, and Amsterdam. Welcome. Just to my left here, we have Dennis McDonald, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the Greater Tampa Realtor Association. Dennis is, which represents over 13,000 realtors and is the largest real estate association in Tampa Bay and the 14th largest in the country. In 2020, he was recognized as a 40 under 40 honoree by Tampa Bay Business Journal. Welcome, Dennis. And over to our far left is Noah Breakstone, Managing Partner and CEO of BTI Partners, the developer of this project. As CEO of BTI Partners, Noah provides the overall strategic direction and leadership for the company's diversified real estate portfolio. He brings over 30 years of real estate, finance, construction, and development experience to the table with over 3.5 billion in transactions for single family, multifamily, condominiums, master plan communities, and mixed-use developments such as the Westshore Marina District and Marina Pointe. Noah has been recognized nationally and regionally with some of the industry's highest honors, including Florida's Best Builder, Builder of the Year, National Association of Home Builders, and has also been inducted into the Builders Hall of Fame. Welcome, Noah. And lastly, we have one more panelist who's actually on our screen here, which is Maria Grulich, who is the Global Director for Florida Realtor Association. Maria oversees and develops global initiatives and programs for Florida, advising and supporting realtor members and association board staff on global matters and markets at the local, state, and federal levels, strengthening relationships and cooperation with international organizations. Welcome, Maria. So we're going to keep the conversation quite informal, which is why we wanted everybody to be here. So I'm going to pose questions to each of you, but we encourage all of you to jump in because your perspective is obviously very different from everybody's. If there are, I know we have quite a lot of media, both virtually and here. If there are any media questions, please feel free to Paula's got her hand up. So if you make sure that Paula knows, we'll make sure that we get your questions answered as well. So without further ado, Mayor Castor. From Titletown to Tampa Bay, sports fans everywhere are talking about Tampa Bay as the city is rapidly becoming known for its championships. The truth is, though, that they aren't just talking about Tampa, they're moving here, opening businesses and gobbling up real estate. According to a February 4th Redfin report, Tampa was 4th in the country for highest net inflow with 47,000 new residents. What are some of the initiatives that the city is working on to stay ahead of this population growth?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for allowing me to be a part of this. Congratulations to Noah and the Marina Pointe group. Originally, I was out here for the groundbreaking, and the only residents were the seagulls and the pelicans. So it's
Yes.
This is an absolute gorgeous, gorgeous development out here. But it's true, you know, the Tampa Bay area is on the rise. A lot of people think Tampa Bay is actually a city, but it's the region of Clearwater, St. Pete, and Tampa. And we do a great job of marketing as that particular region, because we each have those unique characteristics that are attractive worldwide, and we're benefiting from that. And what we are doing here in the city of Tampa, as we rapidly grow, because during COVID 2020, we permitted $4.5 billion in development. Now, if you compare that to 2019, that's a $1.9 billion increase, or 45% increase in permitting during the pandemic. So I'm very, very proud of the entire community, what they've done. Specifically, our Administrator of Development and Economic Opportunity, Carol Post, and her team, J.C. Hutchinson, who we actually stole from another city, is doing an amazing job as well. We have made great strides in making the development processes easier, the permitting processes, inspections, allowing those to be done virtually. Anything that we can do to implement technology into that process that makes it easier, not only for large developments like Marina Pointe, but all the way down to individuals as well. As you may know, we had 52 major developments going on this year during COVID, and we continued that development, which many other cities nationwide put a halt to all development during COVID. We put a safety protocol in place that had very stringent requirements for anyone on a development site. As a result, we had very few COVID-19 cases in our development, and we were able to continue providing thousands of jobs. And now that some of those developments have come online, thousands of opportunities for our residents as well. We also have a system now where you're going to be able to use your cell phone to queue for permit review, and just anything that we can do to make that process easier. We also have to plan for the development that's coming and focusing on those areas of transportation and looking at housing and workforce affordability, and then also workforce development. But we're being very thoughtful in the development in our city, because as I tell everyone, I've been in Tampa for 61 years, my entire life, and this city's going to change more in the next 10 years than it has in my entire life. So we have that one opportunity to create the city that we all want Tampa to be. And I'm very excited to be a part of that process. And frankly, that's the reason I'm sitting here. It's the reason that I ran for mayor. We're creating entire neighborhoods throughout the city of Tampa and doing it thoughtfully.
Thank you, Mayor.
You know, Mayor, I would add something to what you're saying is coming from South Florida. when we got here is it really is a special quality for Tampa and the Tampa Bay area to feel welcome. And I think it's that welcoming environment, the political environment and the economic environment that's here that's going to continue to aid to that growth. And so I want to thank you, all of you, for creating that environment to make it viable for us and prosperous for us. But you're so true.
And that's a great point, Noah. And I promise I'll be quiet after this.
No,
but I could talk about this community forever. But I just left an event at Embark Collection, and it was a gathering of individuals who have moved from around the United States bringing their businesses. And that's one of the most often used word to describe Tampa is friendly. People come here and they're very welcome. And a lot of that has to do with everyone here and many, many more, because it's a collaborative effort. From the time they show up in the world's greatest airport and all the way down the line, they are welcome. Visitors and residents and businesses are welcome here in the city. And what I told the individuals this morning that had moved here, I said, I clearly can sell Tampa and do it from the heart and from my experience here in the city. But if they've relocated their business and their family here and they tell others what's great about Tampa and the Tampa Bay region, that's so much more impactful than hearing it from me.
Yeah, well, thank you. We totally agree. And I think the attitude and the demeanor from the city and from the Tampa Bay area, it's a partnership. And I can tell you, working in a number of cities throughout the Southeast, the United States, it's truly unusual. And so it's a pleasure to be here and work here.
Good.
So it seems many people would agree because we have a lot of people moving here. So Dennis, if you wouldn't mind telling us what's happening with the real estate market in Tampa Bay, with people moving to the area full-time, part-time, and also investors now eyeing the area.
Yeah, absolutely. To say that the Tampa market is on fire, it would probably be an understatement. Anyone that was on the fence about purchasing property in Tampa Bay immediately jumped over that fence because of the interest rates. The interest rates are at a historic low. So anyone that was on that fence just saw the opportunity and seized it. Our inventories are currently at all-time lows. We have property values that are appreciating at rates that we've never seen. And it's simply because there aren't enough properties available to supply the demand. The demand is just through the roof. And the good part about this is that the sales activity is still there. So despite there being this tremendous demand and a low supply, business is still going on. The question that we're asking on our side is how low can it go? That's our thing that most of the people in our industry is just wondering, like, how much lower can it go before it starts to cool down a little bit? And for residential first-time buyers, first-time home buyers, and also for people purchasing second properties, that puts a further strain on the inventory because you have properties that are being removed from the market and nothing being added to it. So that creates an additional strain. Also, with the interest rates so low, a lot of people are choosing to just refinance their home instead of going out and going through the home buying process because it's so competitive out there. To give you some perspective, I have a little cheat sheet with some wonderful statistics that are just, they're incredible. And I talk with a lot of realtors from my role, people that have been doing the business and doing the business for 40, 50 years in this area, born and raised, and they are just floored by the statistics that they're seeing. In the past 30 days, 22% of home in Tampa's Hillsborough County have sold for above listing price. So we're talking about bidding wars that are happening. In total, 58% of homes are selling at or above listing price, which is incredible. In February, we've seen a 61% drop in active listings in the Tampa Bay metro area year over year. Last year around this same time, we had about 3 months of inventory. Right now, we're hovering at around 1 month in the Tampa Bay metro area. The total sales, which is a great thing, the total sales have grown by 13% in Tampa, and they've grown by 8% in the Tampa Bay metro area year over year. The average days on market in the Tampa Bay metro area is 35 days. And that is down 35% year over year in February. And what's even more surprising is that luxury sales are up. According to Florida Realtors, The closed sales that are over $400,000 in Hillsborough County is up 47% from 2019 to 2020. And if you go even higher, the closed sales over $1 million in Hillsborough County is up 78% from 2019 to 2020.
Wow.
Now, what we're thinking to ourselves is, what is bringing everyone to Tampa? What is making the people want to move here? What are investors seeing? And like Justine had mentioned, the warm weather, we have a number of tax advantages. We have significant affordability in Tampa when compared to other major metro areas. And if anyone just turns on the news station for a day or watches the something in the morning tidbit, there's always something about Tampa. This morning I just pulled up a quick Google. Tampa is ranked the 3rd best city in the nation for families, the 2nd in Florida for job creation, the #1 large city for U.S. for first-time home buyers, top retirement city in the nation, best city for military veterans, #2 for best places for family and friends to visit, the best, I'll end it soon. The best city to live, city to live in Florida, and the top area for commercial investors. And I could keep going on this list, but I won't.
Best city for championships?
Yes, of course. Absolutely. Tom Brady, Gronk, the boys, the Lightning, I mean, the Rays, everything in this area is terrific. It's just a really incredible and exciting time to live in or to move to Tampa. And it's obvious that a lot of people have the same sentiment.
Yes.
So now that we've just talked the rest of the country into moving here,
Come on down.
Craig, we've seen recently on the news that companies are looking to move their headquarters to Florida for both tax purposes and also quality of life for their employees. Please tell us what you're seeing as it relates to new business growth, and also talk about this friendly atmosphere in Tampa that we're all discussing.
Well, I think as you heard some of the statistics, it's no secret that Tampa is a great place to be right now. And as all these people that are moving here, I think it's like 112 people are actually moving here each week.
Wow.
Those people need jobs, and that's what the EDC is about. So we're here to help make sure that the economic part of this equation, not just the great quality of life and the sunshine and the wonderful places to live and play and enjoy sports, but we actually have good paying jobs here. And if you've seen some of the news recently, we had a string of really good announcements of companies that have decided to move their operations here or expand their operations here. Starting with OpsWatt, which is a big cybersecurity company that moved from San Francisco here. One of the reasons that they chose here, in addition to, just this view outside of the window right here, but because we actually have good connectivity to San Francisco, thanks to our airport. Tampa International Airport is a big economic generator for this city. So in order to sustain the type of economic growth, we have to have the infrastructure to support it. And so with companies like cybersecurity, most recently we just announced Pfizer is opening a global hub here. And that's the 4th large pharmaceutical company that have chosen Tampa as a place to expand their operations in the last 5 years. So we're really getting traction on big relocations, big expansions from name brand companies. As I look out over this water here, it reminds me that we just recruited Suzuki Motors, which is an outboard motor marine company, to locate their headquarters here. And it's all because of all the things that we have to offer. But when I started in this business, a long time ago, it used to be that companies were interested in, the types of incentives that you can give them, and all of the things for like business costs and things like that. Today, it's more about the talent. And so companies are following talent. And when you have 112 people moving here each week, it justifies them being able to find the type of talent that they need to be successful. So then and again, it goes down to, you got to have a great quality of place in order to keep the talent and attract the talent, and that gets us the job. So we have a winning formula. And one of the things that Noah said earlier, and this is something that we take for granted, and I've been in a lot of other cities as well, but the type of culture here in terms of being welcoming, in terms of having a mayor that works great with our educational institutions, that works great with other community leaders. A lot of communities don't have that. And that frankly is one of our competitive advantages, that when we bring companies in, they see it, they feel it, and it gives us a big winning edge.
And that I'd like to just underscore what Craig just said, because that is what I've heard in my short time, a little under 2 years. Every company that I have met with that's considering Tampa is just unfortunately blown away, because it doesn't happen in other, it should
Right.
happen everywhere.
Right.
But they come to Tampa and they said, we have never gone to a potential relocation site where everyone comes in and talks to us about how great their community is and why you should move here.
Yep.
And that really has helped us weather this pandemic. The diversity of Tampa is something that we celebrate in our demographics.
Yep.
And our culture, but really the diversity, our economic diversity, and looking at having those medical pharmaceutical hubs, looking at our tech hub, looking at manufacturing, looking at tourism, and now looking at Department of Defense, trying to go after some of those contractors at MacDill to get them to bring their headquarters down here to the Tampa Bay area. So we are positioned in such a great spot, literally, geographically, as far as the geography is considered. But the sky is the limit for the Tampa Bay area.
I'll add something to it. You know, to comment what Dennis and Craig said, but Dennis, when you say the interest rates are so low, it's low throughout the country. And what's great about it is people are making the choice to move here.
Yeah, right.
And I think I find fascinating as I sit here is a lot of people in Tampa are like, hey, people are choosing to move here. And because, and I find it's so humbling that people in Tampa are saying in government and politics, wow, they're making that choice.
Yes.
And so I think it's that the years of the culture, as you said, of having a welcoming, welcoming environment, of partnering with private and public, is the rest of the world is recognizing it.
Yes.
And I guess and Tampa gets to profit, gets to be part of that. And it's great to see because the choice, there's plenty of places that don't have the appreciation of, permits, as you mentioned, Mayor, that don't have the sales, the waiting list, plenty of cities in the Northeast and the Midwest and all over the country. So it's great to see what's been created in terms of a very positive and welcoming environment.
Yes.
And Noah, to add to that, it's great to see people come from cold states. I mean, it's obvious why those people want to come down here, but it's also interesting for us to see people from Miami. Globally, one of the best, weather, most attractive spots, even within our own state. We're seeing people come from Miami to Tampa. And we're seeing that migration like we've never seen it before. So that's a really important thing to realize. It's not only from the Northeast, even within our own state, people are wanting to come to this area, and it's so exciting.
So Dennis, and to that point, while you would think the Northeast is one of our largest migration sources, as well as the Midwest, this year was the first year that I think we've seen, and this was a study by U-Haul. They said now we actually have more people coming from the Sun Belt. Texas is the third largest source of people migrating to Florida now. That says something.
It does.
Yes.
So there's no doubt everybody's looking to come here. Fortunately, it's not hard to get to.
Yes.
So Chris, if you would, please tell us about the plans for Tampa International Airport. Presumably COVID has slowed down plans for expansion and additional flights, but what is the airport planning in order to match the rate of growth that the area is now experiencing?
That's a brilliant question. And we're really proud in this community of Tampa International Airport. We're a championship community. And I think that people think of Tampa International Airport sometimes as our fourth major, big team. Every time we've had a success or a win, a new international nonstop flight, man, we're on the front page of all the papers and all the media comes out, and it's very, very exciting because I think this community, number one, they appreciate having one of the top globally ranked airports for customer satisfaction. It's a beautiful facility and very efficient. But also, we're sitting here on the waterfront in South Tampa, and I swear to you, we can hop in my car right now and I can have you at the ticket counter in less than 10 minutes. I mean, think of where else can you go and have that level of convenience. It's just brilliant. The pandemic has definitely had an impact on Tampa International Airport and the entire aviation business. If you go back to last April, we saw 96% of our passenger traffic evaporate. And you can't plan for that. That's a really horrifying kind of a thing. But we were very grateful that Tampa International Airport and this market have been so strong, and the airlines believe so much in the activity in this market that we've been one of the fastest growing airports to recover over the last year. For about the last 3 months, we've seen about half of our pre-pandemic travelers are back to traveling in and out of Tampa International Airport. And from an airline point of view, what they see is that Tampa Bay is a little bit unique among major Florida markets because we have Fortune 500 corporations who are here. We have MacDill Air Force Base, which is in our backyard right here. We also have a tremendous number of small and medium-sized businesses, in part, Noah, who have actually picked Tampa Bay as a place to live because of the convenience of an airport that has Southwest, American, Delta, United, JetBlue, Spirit, Frontier, you name it, they're here. And that means you can get nonstop flights at low prices to the places you want to go. You mentioned connectivity to the West Coast. San Francisco, that's a market that was unserved for many years. But because of the team approach, Noah, that you were talking about, we brought together Craig and his team, along with both of our convention and visitors bureaus, as well as our chambers of commerce. And we went to United Airlines and said, here is the market in its totality, and this is the opportunity you're missing. That market pre-pandemic was up to double daily nonstop flights on United, and Alaska Airlines bringing now nonstop flights as well. Competition into a transcon market, that's a big investment from an airline point of view. This month, Southwest Airlines is bringing back San Diego. And so, there's so much activity that is happening in our market, both from an inbound demand perspective. We've got right now, TripAdvisor just ranked St. Pete Beach as the #1 in all of the United States. And there are 3 other beaches just across the bay here that are in the top 20. So people absolutely want to come here. Then talk about all the people who are moving here. That creates more demand. And on top of that, if you look at the Brookings Institution, for example, they've rated Tampa Bay at the very top of all 20 largest metro areas in the United States for having the lowest number of reduced work hours, maintaining the highest number of people that are still going to their jobs. Our unemployment was the 5th lowest affected of all those top 20 metro areas. And so people here in Tampa Bay have jobs and they have disposable income to be able to travel. Their businesses are still thriving, and so we even have business travel. So as we look at March, we have 75% of the seat capacity that we had pre-pandemic. And we're going into our spring break period. This is a really thriving time for this region. So, we've got more people getting shots in arms, Mayor. I think that there is a spirit of excitement, not just in Tampa Bay, but, across the entire nation. And we're going to see that lift. So we're very optimistic for the rest of the year.
So I'm going to take us now beyond the borders of the US, because I think that the excitement goes even further than that. So we're talking about everybody having Tampa fever, but in reality, Tampa is now becoming known as a hotspot for international vacation home buyers and investors. Maria Grulich, would you mind telling us what countries Tampa Bay's are Tampa's top global buyers coming from, please?
Thank you, Justine. I'm excited, by the way, to hear this conversation because the key to everything is building relationships, working together, loved hearing diversity. So I'm going to tell you your top 5 markets, and there may even be a few surprises here and maybe not. So we'll see. This information is coming from the Florida Realtors International Real Estate Profile. And by the way, you can have access to this profile for free if you go to our website, floridarealtors.org, and just look on the research and report page and look for the international profile. But your #1 is no surprise, I bet, to everyone on this panel or in this audience, and that is Canada. They are number one for Tampa. They are number one for Florida. And we love, love our Canadian friends. They are far above your number one. Your number two may come as a surprise. And I loved all the talking today about relationships and people moving from here to there. Your number two is Cuba, which has never been on, that I can think of, on your radar. And actually it's the only time that it's on the radar for any of the other communities that I checked. And this could be from people moving from other states. It could be from people that have recently moved here and have decided to make Tampa Bay their amazing home. And by the way, I should mention, I grew up in Tampa. I love Tampa. I went to University of South Florida, go Bulls, went to HCC. And so very excited that we're seeing so many new people globally coming. Also, after that, the UK. Our United Kingdom friends love Tampa. They love, of course, the great weather, the great relationships, and the friendliness. So that's your third market. The next one is Brazil. And Brazil happens to be the second state, the second highest state for Florida as well. And then your fifth and final is Germany, which some of you may not realize, but Germany is becoming a very strong market for you as well. So those are the five, and 64% of international buyers buy in cash. And by the way, the number one buyer that does pay in cash is Canada. So you're sitting in a very, very good place. You also have, and I loved hearing about the economic development part. We work very closely with our economic development partners, Florida Economic Development Council and Enterprise Florida. And the key is also those companies coming in. You have a lot of Canadian companies in your area too, including Tico. Tico's owned by Canadians. So all of these together make Tampa so diverse and exciting. And it's all about those relationships you're building and making it a friendly place. And so I'm really, really excited that these are excellent markets. They're markets that we all know, markets that we're all going to continue to work towards and stay connected. The key is to stay connected with these markets, because that's how you're going to grow and continue to be successful in Tampa Bay. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. So Noah, you've been in the Tampa market now for several years, but speaking on behalf of the development industry, what indicators did you recognize that told you Tampa was a market to invest into?
Well, I don't want to say I was here early, but I was. You know, actually what was amazing about that is I started to come to Tampa. The first time I spent a week in Tampa was in 2010. And I got into my Prius and I drove the state for, you know, a good couple of weeks. And I landed on this property. And I said, I just, you know, where can you find 50 acres, 52 acres on the water with a marina, you know, close access to downtown Tampa, on Westshore, close access to St. Pete and the beaches. I said, this is unbelievable. And I just spent time here and I fell in love. And even back when I started then, when I, you know, the site was already platted and we went to the city, we hired an attorney here, and the city basically said, hey, how can we help you? Well, we're interested in changing the plans. Not a problem. Tell us what works. And I was so impressed with that welcoming and the whole environment, and it really helped me. And now let me tell you, I spent time in Jacksonville, Orlando, up, you know, further north on the coast, and Naples, Sarasota, all the way throughout the state. And I just felt everything that you said here were all the reasons early on. And what was amazing too is as I started to spend more and more time in Tampa, it was amazing. I started to see more and more people from South Florida, other developer contemporaries on my flight. And so I started to see that started to happen in maybe 2015, 16, and to start to see that transition. But I think it's been said here, it's really the quality of life. You know, I fell in love with the sunset. You know, I was born with the sunrise, born and raised in South Florida. I happen to love the sunset. And just when you look at Tampa as an emerging, you know, as a really growing city, it has all the basics, I think, that are important. You mentioned sports.
Mhm.
Listen, what a great feat. But there's theater.
Mhm.
There's arts. The art scene here in the Tampa area, fantastic. You know, education that's here. And then the infrastructure and the ability to grow. And, you know, all those ingredients are, to me, the key ingredients of why we're here, that provide the quality of life. And, you know, we're delighted to be part of it. We're happy with working with as a partnership with everybody in public office and government workers. It's been a great environment for us. And so those were the key reasons why we originally, you know, really put our roots here and are going to continue to grow.
That's great.
So you segue beautifully because I want to talk sports. So Mayor, as Tampa grows, do you anticipate a bid for more championships and world-class sporting events? And in addition to that, what would you tell people who are just learning more about this Tampa lifestyle? Obviously, we're talking quite a bit about it.
Well, as far as the championships, you know, we've had the Super Bowl, but you know, we have WrestleMania. I mean, you talked about the arts and culture. What could be more cultural than WrestleMania?
Well, that was the reason.
Yeah, or the monster truck pull as well.
Right.
But no, so I had a press conference with Roger Goodell, the NFL commissioner, and he was very complimentary of our Tampa Bay region as a whole, but then specifically, you know, how well we showed and how wonderful the people in Tampa Bay are. And so as soon as he finished complimenting, I said, well, you know, we're going to get back in line for another Super Bowl. And he said, as well, you should. And so we are looking at that. But what a lot of people don't know is that we host a lot of athletic events. We received every single NCAA event that we went for this past year. Women's Final Four basketball championship has never been in Florida with the exception of Tampa, and we'll host the fourth one of those. Men's NCAA basketball playoff, women's volleyball playoff, Frozen Four. You know, who's you can tell when that's in town because everybody's sunburnt but a lot of those smaller events that we look at that are really family centric. And so it's a vacation opportunity for the entire family to come down and enjoy their team. And then just a number of other events that, you know, that we go after. It does put you on the world stage. Clearly the Super Bowl did. That was our opportunity to really show the world that we do truly live in paradise. But those types of events do put the eye on us, but then you have to deliver when people come. And I think that's what Noah has just talked about. The fact that we have that close-knit community, we have an incredible quality of life. We have very low taxes. I mean, look at this weather all of the time. They said 80% chance of rain the Tuesday before Super Bowl, I said I was going to throw myself off the curb. I always feel personally responsible for the weather. And it turned out to be a Chamber of Commerce day and week specifically. And then along the Riverwalk, our outdoor, our parks, our amenities, all of it played so well. And then for us, I often joke with people, I talk about how we love our celebrations, how we love our parades. And I will say, if you give us 2 weeks notice, we'll give you a parade and you're on it. Like we're all about that. And, you know, with the Bucks, I mean, it really came true. 24 hours, Darcy Glazier said, we have to have it tomorrow or we're not going to have it. We won't have players. And so we put together a safe celebration in that arena as well. So, you know, as we continue to grow, the way that I like to describe our city is a big city with a small town feel. So as we grow, we have to ensure that we don't lose that small town feel and that we don't lose our diversity and that, you know, we're ensuring that everyone gets to prosper from the success that we're going to realize in very short order. So the future is very bright, and I would have to take a moment to say thank you to my predecessors, to Pam Iorio and Bob Buckhorn. I tell Bob every ribbon I cut is his. And now I know why you have to spend 8 years as mayor, because things move a little more slowly in government than, although police, law enforcement is government, things move a little bit slower in transportation and development realm. But very exciting time. And that's, that's what I would say to the rest of the country, any organization, any person that's looking at the Tampa Bay area, is come through the world's greatest airport and take a look for a few days, and you too will fall in love with Tampa Bay.
Indeed.
Can I add just a quick
Please.
thought on the sports? This is the fourth market that I've been a part of, and I've lived in other places that had big name major league sports teams. This is the first market I've been in where I've felt the true partnership of major league sports in trying to help develop the community. And just one example of it, we were working so hard to recruit Copa Airlines to provide nonstop flights from Panama to Tampa International Airport. And it turns out their head of network planning was a huge Yankees fan. And they happened to be playing the Rays that night. And so I made a call to our friends at the Rays, and they said, no problem, we're going to put you front row behind home plate. Not a problem. So we're sitting there in the middle of the first inning, his phone starts blowing up. All of his friends back in Panama who are watching the Yankees are seeing him sitting right there. By the time we got to the seventh inning, he told me, we're coming to Tampa.
There you go.
And it's the little things like that that just demonstrate in a very tangible way how you can make those connections and really make people feel welcome.
Yeah. By the way, it is the little things. It's something just recently I'll share with you, Mayor. Thank you. We wanted to change the name of a road here. You can't get any simpler. It was an oversight on our side, and we had a name of a road that made no sense for us. And we said, let's make it, a name that made sense. I can tell you, in another city, I'm still waiting. It's been over 30 months. Simple things here are simple. And that was taken care of in 6 weeks. And so I think that's part of that progress, that if you can make it simple and easy, as you said, for the Copa gentleman to be able to see on the game, it sounds so easy.
Yeah.
And if you make it easy, wonderful things happen.
And I think that describes the culture of our entire area. And that is, how can we help you accomplish your task or your goal, as opposed to, here's why it can't be done.
Absolutely.
So I think that as simplistic as it sounds, that can-do attitude is really what people are looking for.
Yeah.
No, I don't know if you have felt this way coming to this market, but I think sometimes as a newcomer, you don't know because you haven't been here and you didn't grow up with it, and you haven't always had the palm trees and the beautiful water. You bring those beginner's eyes and it lights up in front of you. I've been here now for 10 years, and I tell you, I still, every single day when I wake up, I look around and say, this is amazing. And I think that it's that kind of energy that infects all of us that are recent transplants to this market. And we just want to share that story because it's so much fun here.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful story. And I think the rest of the country and even the world is recognizing it. We have other projects in Orlando and South Florida, in Jacksonville, and we have a small office in Beijing. And we've had clients that we deal with for our Orlando project say, do you have anything in Tampa? And to us, that's interesting that they would bring it up. And I think, as time goes on, more and more people are seeing what Tampa offers.
Yes, without a doubt.
And I'd like to add also, the mayor was talking about how we're having parades and we've done them safely. I think that is also a component to this as well that we might be overlooking, or maybe we haven't talked about yet. The way that you've handled the COVID-19 and our businesses and the safety protocols. I mean, how many people could have had a Super Bowl that wasn't a super spreader event? And that was just in the news recently, that we successfully had a Super Bowl that was not a super spreader COVID event. So I think the measures that have been taken and put in place by the mayor have really helped accelerate a lot of these things. People feel safe coming here because they know it's a place that takes it serious and it's going to put the precautions in place to keep people safe.
Yes, true.
So we have a lot of people who are watching and will continue to watch this, both in the real estate industry and who may be looking at either moving or purchasing real estate themselves. So Dennis, I'm going to combine a question that we had and also one that somebody has on here.
Sure.
Do you see the real estate market cooling off in the coming months, and is it only tied to COVID? And second to that, if the homes market if homes are in such high demand right now, do you worry about inflation in this market?
Yeah, that's quite a doozy of a question. It's definitely something that has been discussed heavily amongst our realtors in our association. I think it's important to recognize that even the most competent experts that are working in this environment, it's a lot of completely unknown variables. This, how many people have experienced a pandemic environment at this level? So even the experts that are putting their forecasts out and saying things, it's kind of just a guess. So with that disclaimer out there, no matter where you look for your national real estate resources, whether it's realtor.com or Redfin or Zillow, Tampa Bay is projected to experience year-over-year growth in both price and sales of about 7 to 8% in 2021, making it one of the greatest appreciations expected in the US metro market. So that is outstanding. Also, the competitive market that we're seeing right now with multiple buyers, this is probably likely to continue despite the inevitable creeping up of the interest rates as the economy bounces back. There's a recent survey done by Redfin, and 44% of the respondents said that if mortgage rates rise above 3.5, it would have no impact on their purchase decision. And only 10% of them said they would cancel their plans. That is really great news for the industry, really great news for the forecasts. And in regard to COVID-19, I think COVID-19 has really made us appreciate our homes. It's made us reevaluate what we look at, where we want to live, the amenities that we value. And this inventory problem that we're in that's been exacerbated by COVID, inventory shortages are not something that's new to real estate. Even prior to the pandemic, we were still sitting in about a 3-month supply of inventory, which is still considered a shortage. So that was happening before the market, and it's likely to just continue on. So those are really good indicators. Whenever the pandemic is finally past and we're done, whatever that might be, I still personally believe that property ownership and home ownership will continue to be the single best way to build wealth. And that is historically something that has always been, and I feel that it always will be. And I think your best bet is working with a realtor, because a realtor is going to help you navigate through this post-pandemic market that have so many unknowns. They're going to be on top of all these metrics. They're going to be there to give you the advice that you need to get the best property or whatever you might be looking for. And the strong demographics that help fuel the real estate market during the pandemic are probably going to continue after the pandemic as well, and possibly even strengthen further. So that should really help drive the real estate sales across the Tampa Bay area. To follow up on the second question from the audience in terms of inflation, now I'm not a PhD economist, but our association consults with Elliot Eisenberg, who is a PhD economist, and he looks at our analytics and our metrics that come from Florida realtors. And in his last report that he did for us, he does not see a concern for inflation. He sees a modest spike of inflation that would just not have an impact on home sales. Now, because of this, and I'm trying to think back to the video that I watched, it's because of things that are tied to the past. If you think back to previous times where there was major inflation in the 70s, a lot of it was because the contracts for the unions were linked to the cost of living adjustments, and we're not seeing that now. So that's another thing that's in the favor of this. Also, before the pandemic started, we had record low pricing for gas, and for everything that we saw was record low. So as inflation does start to creep up a little bit, we're going to see things go back probably to where they were before at such a low rate. So again, without a crystal ball, there's no way to say, but from the experts that we consult with, we don't feel that inflation is going to be a problem in the near future.
I also don't have a PhD, but I can tell you as a person that lived in San Francisco for 10 years, I think that we're coming off of an incredibly small base. And that's just, when you compare the quality of life in this region to what you get in other parts of the country, it's really no comparison. And I would also say from 10 years ago when I arrived here to now, it's a very different community. The level of culture, the level of entertainment, and the number of new businesses, from pharmaceuticals to high technology to you name it, it's here. And so I think that you're going to continue to see, even if you put out, a don't come sign, people are going to come. The momentum is here. And I think that, with the mayor's leadership and all of the leaders in our region, we're open arms, come on down.
Chris brings up an excellent point in that 10 years ago, our local economy was vastly different than what it is today. We were a largely service-driven economy. Hospitality and tourism were like the main anchors of the economy. You look at our economy today, but we have a significant financial services sector. Life sciences now has taken off. We actually even have a manufacturing cluster that's building and growing. In fact, over half of the leads that are in our pipeline are from manufacturing types of projects. Those are good paying jobs with strong capital investment, which builds our tax base. So moving forward, I think with the continuation of the diversification of our local economy, it stands to reason that we should continue that demand for good quality residential projects, which actually gives a lot of people even more reason to come here and call Tampa home.
Yeah. I mean, I'll just even add one more thought. I happen to be a statistics nut. But what a lot of people find hard to believe, for everything that was said here is absolutely correct. So if you look at all the job growth, population growth, those are where housing is going to be. So it's going to continue here. But what's amazing from the Great Recession that we had in 2008, housing recession, what a lot of people don't realize is that the oversupply that was built during that time was actually absorbed in 2 or 3 years. And our production, housing production, never fully recovered. And I think National Association of Home Builders have done this study, ULI has a study, and the housing is actually 3 million units undersupplied. So housing is really never caught up. And I think, so the fact that housing's never caught up, the 50-year average of interest rates actually is over 5.5%. So we got a lot of runway. The fact that Tampa is going to be a net migration increase from other cities, with all those factors, it bodes so well, in my view, of having a nice runway as we continue on.
That's very interesting. I hadn't heard that information.
Yeah. A lot of people, when I share it, are fascinated and nice, and it's never recovered.
Yes, it will now.
Yeah.
So Craig, I'm coming back to you because you segued perfectly. So it's fun to be on the top of your game. Also allows you to be particular and to focus your sights on specific, perhaps businesses and different industries that you are looking to continue bringing to Tampa and where your focus is. So can you tell us about any industry sectors? And then additional to that, tell us about overseas activities. Do you see people coming from different countries?
About 3 years ago, 2 years ago now, we undertook a new strategic planning process. And what we wanted to do was drill down even deeper into some of the industry sectors that in today's climate we would be even more competitive in. So historically, we've always targeted companies like life sciences and financial services. Well, today, what we've done is drill down a little deeper. Now we're looking at financial technology or fintech. We're looking at health tech. So all the things that are related to health records, bringing more technology to the health sciences side. That's a particular niche industry that we're looking to serve as well. We're looking at cybersecurity, and we've had a really good string of wins most recently in the cybersecurity field. That builds on our proximity to MacDill Air Force Base and some of our strong competitive advantages in the sectors of technology and defense security and things like that. So niche industries like fintech, IT, health tech, cybersecurity, logistics solutions. That's something that, when you get a Amazon package today, it's all about logistics. And this I-4 corridor that connects Tampa to Orlando and is also like the spine of Central Florida, which also connects 75 and ultimately 95, which connects the whole state of Florida, we are in a great position to be able to capitalize on all of the distribution and logistics that are happening within the whole Southeast. That adds to our other competitive assets like the Port of Tampa Bay. So when you have a port, an airport, strong access to major arterials, that gives us even a stronger competitive advantage on the logistics and solutions side of the industry sector. So these are all new sectors that we're targeting now. On the international front, we've enjoyed a partnership with our regional counties like Pinellas and Pasco for the last 5 or 6 years now. We started a partnership called Global Tampa Bay. And part of that partnership includes our good friends at the airport and the port. And that is, as Chris mentioned before, it's our ability to work together as a region to go and show the various amenities and assets and quality of life and what it's like to do business and live in the greater Tampa Bay area. And we continue to, unfortunately, pandemic has kind of put a halt on a lot of that. Chris and I were talking earlier that we miss each other. We haven't had a chance to travel internationally in quite a long time. But even in spite of that, we're doing things virtually. This year, we're actually having our very first virtual trade show. We're going to be partnering with Enterprise Florida, which is the state's economic development organization, to host companies locally to do business in London, which is one of our major trading partners. So we continue to find new creative ways to reach out internationally so that our local businesses have other avenues to grow their goods and services.
So Chris, talk to us, you've told us about some of the trends as it relates to current travel at the airport, but tell us about projections, if you would, when we might see travel return to some level of normalcy, and touch on that, if you would, continuing on the global side of it, because I think that's, we talk about international travel not being, nobody can get here at the moment. But when it does come, do we expect it to be like the floodgates opening? What do you anticipate?
Thank you. I'll say just a moment ago, you heard Maria, talking about all of those markets where people are coming from. And over the last 10 years, we've connected to just about every single one of them. The pandemic has forced us to retool, and I'm really delighted to be able to tell you, it took us about 30 days to pivot from our prior approach, where we would have maybe 2 meetings a year with our airline network planning partners at the individual airlines. We're now meeting every single month with Craig and his team, along with our chambers of commerce and our convention visitors bureaus, to make sure that we're gathering all of the current information about the pulse of our market. And then we're meeting every single month virtually with the decision makers at those airlines to make sure they know what's happening here. And that's a big driving factor of why we've seen our capacity coming back faster. Because those airlines, they know that they're going to learn something when they're talking with us. They learn why those passengers are back on the flight, not just the fact that the passengers are back on the flight. Before the pandemic, we had about 22 million passengers annually. And it's hard to say, how long it's going to take for us to get back to that number. Right now, our recovery forecast would have us getting back to 22 million passengers in about 3 years. It's been a pretty linear recovery so far, but I feel like it could be asymmetrical as we look over the horizon for a couple of reasons. I think one, for all the reasons that were articulated a moment ago, our market from a business standpoint and an employment standpoint, it's a roaring boil with a lid on it. And I think that as soon as people feel safe to get out and travel again, that lid comes off, boom, everyone is gonna want to be out traveling. That's one piece. Two is just the fact that we continue to win global recognition as a destination for this region. And so I think those are going to be important factors. In terms of the recovery of traffic, what we see is that leisure is definitely recovering before business, because companies are looking at the opportunity for COVID infections and those kinds of things. Say, we just don't need to take that risk right now. Let's hold back. We're getting close. All of the surveys and all of the data that I've seen, especially in the last 4 weeks, tell us that businesses are about put their folks back on the road. The second piece is that people, I think, just generally speaking, are wanting to get back out and visit their friends and relatives all across the country. So we talked at the beginning of this discussion about the fact that we have both a strong business market for outbound demand and a strong leisure market for inbound demand. When you then recast that for international, domestic is definitely recovering faster than international. Why? It's because of travel restrictions.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you that from a year ago to now, we've seen our international carriers, every single one of them have reloaded their flights into the system. And then as soon as there is a pivot by one of the governments to say, okay, well, now we're going to have a quarantine period, or now there's a testing requirement, immediately the reservations dry up and the airline has to pull that out of the system and then move it back a couple of months. We talked about London and British Airways, and so we've been speaking with them. They're coming back this summer. We just met with Lufthansa this week. They're coming back this summer. Copa Airlines has already come back. We've got Southwest Airlines is flying to Havana daily, and so all of these international markets, they want to come back and they will thrive. But you know, I think that we're just at this really strange interstitial moment. And as soon as we get past the health concerns, which I really genuinely believe that we're just inches from it, I think that you're going to see things recover dramatically.
Yeah. Chris, and listen, since I'm in the private sector, I can do this, that I believe it won't be 3 years, that you'll see it in 18 months getting back to that number. That when everybody feels comfortable in the summer, 12 months later, you're 18 months, when you look at the trailing 12 months, you'll see that 22 million. Because I just think it's going to accelerate very quickly with the added effect of what we're seeing with net migration, Tampa, and all those other factors that we talked about. And I'm very bullish on that.
I'll just say, because the mayor sits on our board at the airport as well, so she knows for sure. Not only have we seen the reduction in traffic, we've seen the reduction in related revenues. Yeah. We anticipate that because of COVID, there's about $340 million of business that just is not going to materialize at the airport. But when we look over the horizon, when we get back to that 22 million annual passenger level, we were right on the precipice of moving forward with a new 16-gate airside to meet demand for international travel. We still need to be ready for that. And so all of the steps that we're taking right now from an economic point of view are preserving our capacity to reaccelerate and be able to deliver that capacity, because we don't ever want to be the short pole in the economic development tent of the Tampa Bay region.
Yeah.
So Mayor, obviously you've had to pivot a little bit over the past few months. So how would you say that COVID has changed the plans that you had for the next few years for Tampa?
Well, I don't know that our plans have been changed. There may have just been a little bit of a slowdown. And, as Chris talked about, the amazing things that they're doing out at the airport, sitting on the airport board, some of those advances just have a longer timeline on them right now. And so we have continued, we have been open for business, as you heard those permitting numbers. We have made a number of changes. We clearly have had to respond very quickly to COVID-19. And I really feel that my experience in law enforcement and dealing with crises over 31 years was beneficial in the position of mayor, and making those decisions quickly, those decisions that are in the best interest of our community, putting them in place quickly, and really not letting the noise interfere. You've always got individuals on either side that don't like what you're doing, but as long as you're focused on doing what's in the best interest of the community, then I feel you're in a good spot. But we have continued. We've been able to do a lot during COVID-19 in maintenance, in changing some of our zoning, looking at that, clearly with permitting. A lot of sort of those loose ends we've been able to address because we've had some downtime in some of our areas. But for the most part, we are still full steam ahead, and we are prepared for the eventuality, which I think is going to come very soon, that we will be out from under this pandemic cloud, and we're ready for it.
And further to that, at the airport, we've actually accelerated some of the construction that we had going on in our master plan development. We've poured hundreds of millions of dollars into our curbs and in establishing a new express curbside where passengers that, today we're all checking in on our phones, we're not checking bags. You can pull up to this new express curbside, go right up to your train, hop out to the plane, and you're done. And thank goodness that we've been able, because of our reduced traffic levels, to take advantage of that and have more lane closures and just shut down parts of the airport and be able to redirect our traffic. Thank goodness, because now as we continue to see this really robust recovery, we're ready.
Fantastic. One area that we haven't really spoken about, but is a key indicator, Dennis, and that's commercial real estate, most particularly office space. Can you talk to us about the current state of the market and how it's been affected?
Sure.
Hopefully.
Our Greater Tampa realtors, our realtors primarily focus on residential, but we did recently have a meeting with the president of the Florida Gulf Coast Association of Realtors, Kevin Yeager, and he informed us that the sales of retail, multifamily, and industrial are creeping towards all-time highs. Office is still out there. It's doing okay at the moment, but they do anticipate a drop in the future. There are still people looking to purchase office spaces, though, so don't get me wrong. There are a lot of companies that were out there that were leasing before, and because of the interest rates, they're now looking to purchase. And these are the businesses that weren't impacted by COVID. They may have been doing well, and because of that, they now have the money to make a purchase. So there is still some movement in that area. Another factor to consider for office space is that nobody really knows how offices are going to repopulate after we're done with the Zoom world that we've all been living in for so long. It's probably likely that we're going to see a hybrid model, something like that, where it's kind of work from home, work in the office. Maybe everyone comes back. Maybe some people come back, some people stay home permanently. That's likely to become the new normal. And companies will probably value space efficiency, smaller footprints, looking at what are the needs of the business for their office. So it might result in a little bit of smaller office spaces, offices looking to downsize. But as things downsize, that opens up for someone else who's going to fill that spot because that's downsizing for them. So to put it into perspective, last year there was about 300 to 400,000 square feet of sublease office space. And right now there's about 2 million square feet of sublease office space available. So the office market in the next 12 to 18 months is probably going to provide lower returns than where things are currently.
And just to Dennis's point, we're experiencing some of the prospects that we've been working with. It's not that they put on hold their need for expanding, but they are reevaluating the type of space that they need. Because we're also hearing that we know that we may not need as many people in the office at one time, but companies are very sensitive about the culture of their corporation. And they know that they only can have that culture when there are people in the office. And so there's some decline in the vigor of the corporate culture when everybody's out at home doing their thing. But when there's actually companies that are ready to get back in the office and have that collaboration and that partnership and that spirit of esprit where they can actually get in there and get things done. So to say all that is, the commercial sector is going to be in a little more flux until they kind of flesh out the balance of this work from home and being in the corporate environment. But we do think that there's still a demand for it. We just don't know, the level of that demand is going to take place.
I actually think this bodes well for Tampa. And so, I have a number of contemporaries I know in, for example, New York City. I don't want to mention the city, but I just did.
Yes, you did.
You go to in Manhattan, you go to your office building, you could, it's impossible to queue for that elevator. If you want to start queuing, you'd have to reserve times to have some type of distancing. There's no windows, there's no open space, there's no real parks. When you start looking at Tampa, and you have 5-story office space, you could have windows that could open. You could walk outside to park. I was just with the developer for Armature Works, and what's happening there. I mean, who wouldn't want to be there?
Yeah.
5-story office, windows open, walk outside, go to this incredible food hall, sit outside, the weather's impeccable, outdoor, indoor. I think spaces are rethinking, and it's going to bode well for Tampa. And what's going to hurt is there's no need to have the density and the intensity that we see in these older cities. And I think that's going to be reconfigured to work to the benefit of the Tampa market.
Well, that's music to my ears, that's for sure, because that really is the question, I think, I know for me personally, and as the mayor of Tampa, is what does that office space look like post-COVID? And who is coming back, and what are they coming back to? And as far as the taxes and property taxes, those types of things, no concern with the residential, but looking at the business end of things that's very reassuring. Thank you. I'll hold you to that.
No, I think, listen,
When it comes budget time, if that
that's
doesn't
why I'm
work
leaving
out.
now.
That's right, there you go.
This particular topic is one that actually we're wrestling with right now. As
That's
part
right.
of part of our construction, we had to eliminate a space where we had about half of our workforce. So we're building a new 9-story office tower. We'll take 3 floors of it, and that's going to be our new headquarters. And so we developed all of these plans pre-pandemic, and then last year we had to recast and really rethink how are we going to adapt to living in this new space. And so we were able to say, okay, let's make sure that we have 75% of the full people that would normally be there. We'll have the capacity for them. We're going to facilitate hoteling. And all of us have been working remote through the coronavirus. But what is remote? It isn't just working from home or working from Belfast. It's sometimes working from Craig's office, who's just down the hall. Or maybe it's working from the cafe or the Starbucks that's down at the corner. And I think that I can tell you personally, having a little bit of an opportunity to be back and interacting with the people that we've worked so hard with over the last 10 years, and you haven't seen them in months and months and months, oh my goodness, it's a gravitational pull that's going to bring
Absolutely.
people back. You're not going to have to drive people to come back to the workforce. I'm very confident that the human interaction, that serendipitous element, is going to make people want to come back to the workforce and workplace. And I think that's what we're all just going to have to adapt to. How can we facilitate that kind of an experience? How can we embrace everything we've learned about remote work until now and make it a really compelling environment for everyone to be able to share that space?
It'll be a combination. It's the ULI did a study, the great work from home experiment, which we have not proven the results, but I think it could be a combination.
Yes.
Like you said, the getting together is so important. Listen, in our office, we could be in separate offices. We still use Zoom and Teams in different offices. So those technologies now are ingrained. Yeah. And so a combination, maybe it's 3 days in the office and 2 days at home, in some combination that works well in terms of how we look at it. But like I said, very hard to transform some of the older cities to what the newer cities can provide in terms of open space and windows and climate and parks and everything else that they can provide. So I think what will happen is people will realize is, I don't have to be in Chicago. I don't have to be in New York City, and we can thrive. Hey, what other cities make sense?
I also think it's important to note, like what everyone has said here, I think employers are, just like with homes, and homeowners have reevaluated what the home means to them, employers are reevaluating what the business is. And I think there's a huge shift on the employee's well-being, on that work-life balance. And employers might be looking to install gyms in their office, or what's in my mind is what's happening downtown in Tampa with Water Street. I think that the shift that's going to happen that we've all discussed is extremely conducive to what is happening down in Armature Works and the Water Street project. Like, that is what businesses are going to want to move towards, something where you can be in the office, but you can be close to those amenities. And there's going to be a huge focus on that work-life balance, your employee well-being, your employees' mental health, the benefits that come from working from home and the efficiencies. And then also, the mix of it is important as well. So I think that's also going to contribute.
Good
point.
So we have just spoken for an hour and 15 minutes.
Seemed much shorter.
I know.
Well, thank you to each of you.
Thank you.
Mayor, thank you very much for coming today. I think this is just a fantastic discussion and under great leadership. So excited to
Fascinating
see.
discussion, and we're very fortunate to have the leadership and the collaboration that we have in the entire Tampa Bay area and
Indeed.
such incredible partners.
Indeed. So Dennis McDonald, CEO of Greater Tampa Realtor Association, Craig Richards, CEO of the Economic Development Council. We have Chris Minner, who's EVP at Tampa International Airport, and Noah Breakstone, CEO of BTI Partners.
Maria?
And Maria,
Yes.
right, how could I miss Maria? Maria Grulich, who is Global Director at Florida Realtor Association. Thank you all for joining us today. Absolutely incredible discussion. This is going to be recorded. We're going to then send a link out to everybody. You should have it within the hour. We hope you continue to ask questions. I think our panelists are going to stay for a few minutes. So if we have additional media questions, please make sure you stop and ask some questions. Thank you to everybody. We're absolutely thrilled to be part of this beautiful community. And what a gorgeous day. at
Thank
Marina
you.
Pointe.
Thank you. Good job.